What's going on, legends? My name's Kurt Rosie, this is Supreme TV, and today we're getting into the secret sauce of iRacing, car setups. How to use them, where to get them, and some reviews of some of the best setup shops on iRacing. Let's get into it. Firstly, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's subscribed recently. The channel's been growing massively and I can't thank you enough for that. If you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit the like button and of course subscribe. Let me know what your favorite track is below in the comments, because engagement. Now, we are not going to get into how to fine tune or set up a car specifically. I am not well versed in that. There are plenty of other people out there who are much smarter than me, setting up cars and making them go faster. But that's not what this video is about. Today, we are exclusively going to look at how to use setups, where to get them, and some reviews of some of the setup shops that I've used in the past. I've not used every single setup shop. There is far too many for me to do a review on all of them. Also, I am a very average iRacer, so take that as you will. I am by no means an alien, and I am by no means bad. Let me start off by saying that baseline setups have come a long way, even since I started iRacing. 2018 is when I started, and baseline setups were relatively average. They definitely didn't have a lot of thought or process put into them. Now iRacing has specific people for these setups, and they make setups for tracks, not just a baseline setup. There is 135 official series on iRacing across all disciplines, road, off-road, across different licenses from rookie to A class. And of those, 77 are open. 77 official series are open setup. Now, some of those are endurance and all that kind of stuff, but these are ones that you're gonna need a setup for. Now, whether that is just the baseline setup for that track and car combination, but if you wanna be competitive, if you wanna get close to your competition, you want to start looking at other alternatives. Majors Garage have a baseline plus, which is just some adjustments made to the baseline setup for that car and track combo. But also you can get setups from a place called Garage 61, which is fantastic for telemetry and all that kind of stuff, but it also helps you dive a little bit deeper into setups and what people are using for setups. It won't show you any of the paid setups, but it will give you setups that people have used and made them public for everyone to have. In iRacing, the setups are a .sto file. Now, you can't just open those with anything. They pretty much exclusively work with iRacing, unless you get something like a setup viewer or something like that to view the values. Or you can do some laps with the Garage 61 telemetry on with that setup on, and it can show you the values in there. And then you can compare that to other setups from different sessions, all that kind of stuff. The setup folder is within your iRacing folder on your computer, whether that's under your C drive, whatever. And then you want to navigate to iRacing and then setups, and then it will have a list of all of the cars that you have there. If you're downloading one from online, then you want to download it into iRacing, setups, and then the car that you have the setup for. What I like to do is break it up to seasons, because sometimes things can change, car builds can change within seasons. So what you want to do is make sure that you separate it out for seasons, and then you can keep a few backlogs of seasons in case you want to go to a car or track combo that you have done in the past, but you want to do it in the future for a league or something like that. So yes, once you've downloaded your STO into the folder for that car, you can head to Garage, and then you'll get this screen here, which has all of the options for your setup. And then you can head to My Setups, and you can see these are all the Garage 61 folders that I have, and you can then obviously click on it and then open your setup. So obviously I haven't got any setups for this yet. So let's go to Garage 61 and find a setup for the Formula Ford 1600. If we head to Garage 61, I've clicked on the setups tab up the top, and it's showing me all the setups for the Cadillac GTP. So let's go down to the Formula Ford. I think it's called the Ray. Formula Ford, there we go, Ray FF 1600. Now you can see none of my teams have any setups for this yet. So I already have the Garage 61 telemetry logger downloaded onto my computer. What we're gonna do is go laps and then search. And at the moment, because I'm in a session currently, it's got the current setup we've got here. Neil Gardner, who's a good friend of the stream, he does a lot of Skip Barber and Formula Ford, he has a setup available. So you can see here, the button here says setup. Some people will lock their setups. Now that's either because they have a paid setup or they've just chosen to lock it. Actually, sorry, they've just chosen to lock this one. This one here now says that this is a paid setup. So it's got a little $sign next to it. So we're gonna click on Neil's setup. We're gonna just click this button here and it's popped up here with all of the information. So if you wanted, you could just flick over to Iracing and adjust the settings and then save, or you can just add to my setups. So these are all the folders I have on my C drive. So I've just got my personal setups. I'm just going to chuck it in there. It's honestly as easy as that. So we're back in here now. And there it is. So just open that up, make sure it passes, hit done. And then we have a setup applied. Now you can still adjust this. If there's anything you want to change, I mean, brake bias, things like that. I tend to not do it because these people who make these setups are genuinely much faster than me and know a lot more about a car, the way the car handles. Now that we have a setup in our car, we can enter a race and be genuinely as close to competitive as possible. Now, this is not going to make you Max Verstappen. This will help you. Sometimes these setups can be a little bit too extreme to try and extract the most amount of lap time out of the car. That's where it starts to become more of an issue, and then the car becomes unstable. It's something that you can't handle. Obviously you can try and drive to the best of your ability, but sometimes it is better off to go to a more stable setup that you know you can finish the race in over the fast setup that you may not be completely comfortable with and you may have some issues finishing the race. The next step is you start racing in a series that you really want to excel at, and this series is an open series. Something like IMSA, maybe something like Super Formula that has both an open and a fixed, or even Formula 3, maybe an oval series. You want to do, you've moved up from just doing the fixed races in oval and you want to start doing open races, slightly longer races. You want to start doing enduros, which means that you need a setup that works well with a lot of fuel and doesn't completely burn the tires out. So this is where a setup shop comes in handy. I've tried 4 different setup shops. I've tried VRS, Craig's setup shop, then I went to Grid and Go for a couple of months, and now I'm finally at Apex Racing Academy. I've given most of those a very solid chance. I've done full seasons with VRS setups. I've done full seasons with Craig's setup shops. I only did a couple of months with Grid and Go, and now I'm almost done my first full season with Apex Racing Academy. So I'm going to break it down a little bit so that you guys get a little bit of an overview so you know what you're getting yourself into. All of these will be in Australian dollars because it's way too hard for me to do the conversion for all of this stuff. Now, first off is VRS, Virtual Race School. Now, VRS are one of the biggest setup shops for iRacing. They have teams that run in esports competitions, high-level competitions, as well as coaches that can coach you using their telemetry logger, which they have. They also have free track map guides for rookies, MX5, Formula V. VRS have their own telemetry logger too, so you're going to make sure that you download that if you are going to go with them. They have a few different plans. You can actually get per car plans if you're only racing 1 or 2 cars. It can be worthwhile doing that. They call that the dedicated pack, and that's $7.47 a month or $74 for the year. Now, I probably wouldn't suggest getting a whole year's worth just in case things happen. And then they obviously, their top of the line is the competitive package. Now, this is $14.47 or $144 per year. And that includes all of the advanced features of VRS from like over 90 different data packs. They'll give you enduro sets, they'll give you tutorials, they'll give you a hot lap, and they'll give you a lap guide for each and every car combo every single week. They also have extra add-ons you can get. So Altus Engineering, they do their own setups, as well as Apex as well. So you can get VRS with the Apex add-on that has Apex Racing sets that come from a different coach, like different coaches from the Apex Racing Academy. You can also add in, if you're just looking to do things like short track ovals, you can do that. Take a quick look at all of the things that they offer here. You can just do the 87 cars, the GP cars. They've got Apex Racing oval packs. They have a lot of different options, which is great. But yes, again, when it comes down to VRS, they are very much making setups for the broad public. Now that's not a bad thing necessarily, especially if you're only just starting out with open sets. They are definitely not the fastest. So the way I think about it is that they build setups that are relatively fast, but also relatively safe. Most of the time they'll actually give you two sets. They'll give you a safe one and then a not safe one. The safe one's really safe, but the normal one is still relatively safe, comparatively speaking. The reason why they do that is so that more people will use their sets because they're not dying every time they drive the car. One little tip for VRS users that not many people know about: if you jump into their Discord and then find the section about One Sim Racing, that's their automatic setup sync service. It's not an official VRS program, but once you install it, then you can automatically have setup sync once you jump into the car, which is really handy because VRS still don't have a way where you can sync things like I showed you with Garage 61. They don't have that. One Sim Racing does help that. It's been a little bit buggy, but it's, for the most part, it's really good. Craig Setup Shop, or CSS, was the next setup shop I've tried. Now, I tried CSS for a long time. Relatively cheap compared to most other setup shops. Their Discord's really good. They've got a lot of helpful people in there. People who have used them in the past are extremely good drivers. It was a really good breath of fresh air from moving from VRS to Craig's Setup Shop, which was a little bit cheaper and still giving me the quality that I was hoping for. The way I was paying for CSS was through Twitch Prime, which you can do by subscribing to Craig A. Williams on Twitch, which is the owner of Craig's Setup Shop. And that, as long as you link that with the CSS sync program, then you can get those setups for obviously the Twitch Prime sub cost. I was very happy with CSS. Like I said, I felt a little bit quicker, but it could have just been a placebo thing, who knows. The one downside I had with CSS was that on more than one occasion, there hadn't been enough fuel to finish the race. Now, there's a combination of reasons why that could have happened, including, maybe damage or something on the car, which that definitely can be a problem. But I have heard other people complain about that too. Besides that, for the most part, this is a really good budget option that will get you decent setups for most things. They definitely aren't the biggest, so they don't do every single car. They also have a 1-year subscription, which is $50. I think that's US dollars. But they also have, like I mentioned, they have a setup sync program, which is pretty good. I wouldn't say it's automatic. You still need to click on the car and click on download the setup. But it will automatically save it to your setup folder. Now, on the other hand, to CSS, we have what I found to be one of the most expensive setup shops, Grid and Go. Grid and Go setups for me were fantastic, but I think that my skill level was not ready to handle what these setups were offering. I am by no means fast, but these were made by some of the fastest people on iRacing. Sven Haas is, I think, 11K iRating now, which is insane to me. And they offer some of the greatest perks for their daily races package, including setups for all of the cars, hot lap videos with a replay and a track guide for each car class, as well as, Discord support and all that. But they also have really good integration with Garage 61, which is one of the big selling points that I had. So the telemetry and the file sync all is handled with Garage 61. Now the problem is that because it's in euro, whilst it is only 10 euro a month, they then charge VAT on top of that, and it becomes, for me, it ended up being $19.80 a month, which is, that's a lot of money to be spending on setups. And that's also doesn't include any of the special events or NEC or any of the enduros, but they do offer fantastic virtual coaching. They have really good in-depth guides by and not just for racing, but things like how to fuel up a car in endurance racing, how to do a slow out lap for qualifying, how to save fuel, all that kind of stuff that's really important to becoming just that little bit faster in every single race. So you're talking 10 tenths. This is where you've built yourself up to a really good standard, and you just want to go that little bit faster. You've extracted every little bit out of what you can, and this is the next stage. I feel like I probably wasn't ready for Grid and Go when I got it, but I think in the future it could be beneficial. And finally, the setup shop that I'm currently using is Apex Racing Academy. Now, Apex Racing Academy have teams in esports, they work with VRS, they have a lot of in-depth knowledge about everything to do with iRacing. They have a fantastic team with some of the biggest names in sim racing in general, Owen Carroll, Sam Soyd, all of those people that are just the top of iRacing. I was not convinced that I really needed to get Apex setups, and then I tried a few and felt really comfortable, but also really fast. Now that could have just been right place, right time, where my skill level is just up to the standard of Apex. Put a bit of a tier list together, which I will do at the end. I find Apex to be a really good all-rounder for people who are maybe just slightly above average. Like VRS and Grid and Go, they have a huge knowledge base of tutorials, although their website is a little bit slow to use. They need to work on how they produce that, but their Discord has tons of information. The coaches are there. They have notifications that will tell you when the new setup is available for that new week. And then they also have one-on-one coaching, but they also have group coaching where the coach will create a hosted session before the week starts. Everyone can join who's a silver tier member. This is the membership that I have. Coach will give you tips on how to be faster, how to take corners better, how to brake better. Apex have a few packages very similar to the way that VRS do it. They have a bronze, silver team, which is if you have a team of people up from 5 to 10 iRacing accounts, gold, and then they have one-on-one coaching, which is also just a separate, I think that's just more of a separate thing than it is a package. The silver is the most popular. It is basically access to all 30 of the cars that they have. I'm not sure if they do every series, I don't think they do, but they also have weekly replay files, ghost lap files, advanced track guides from both like a third person chase cam and also from a cockpit, as well as a lap guide. You can analyze your data on VRS, but that you do need to have a VRS account linked with, I think, some sort of membership. They also have, Discord access, a software sync. Also works relatively well. I had some issues at first, but once I worked through it, it's been really flawless ever since. You also get a livery pack as well. So I think Apex has been really great for me. I haven't had any issues, no underfueling. Come close once, but it was more to do with damage. Would suggest that Apex is probably a good middle of the road setup where you can actually extract a lot of time out of it. So if I was to rank those 4 setup shops, I'm not going to rate them 1 to 4. I'm going to tell you what each of them are good at doing, and you can decide yourself whether or not you fit into that group. VRS is good for people who are just jumping into open sets, just need a setup that can drive and will get you to the end of the race. It is a little bit expensive at almost $15 a month, but you're getting almost every single car, as well as the good VRS telemetry data that you can compare to the coach. CSS is really good, no telemetry data or anything like that. It's a very good budget option if you don't really want to spend a lot of money, but just make sure that your car is covered in the cars that they offer. Grid and Go is the top of the top. If you're an alien and you need setups, and you're not building your own setups, Grid and Go is a fantastic option. I don't think I'm there yet. I don't have the skills to drive those setups. I'm just not good enough for it. But it's also relatively expensive compared to these other ones. And then if you start factoring the fact that you can get very similar stuff for much cheaper, and that they don't include every single car like some of these others do, it doesn't really become a viable option for everyone. Now, just because you have Grid and Go sets doesn't mean you're going to be fast either. You do need to drive those setups well to get the most lap time out of them. Which brings me to Apex, which I think is probably the best of all of those things. Not necessarily cheap, but also a slightly faster and a little bit more improved, refined VRS set, but not as intense and alien-like as Grid and Go sets. The pricing is not quite perfect at around $17 Australian a month for the silver package, which is their most popular, but I feel like it's probably one of the best, at least for me right now in my current situation at about 2.5 KI rating. So there it is. I'm sure I've missed what I really wanted to say in all of that, but I hope that has helped you, one, know how to use setups and where to get some for free, as well as some of the setup shops and a little bit of a review on each of them. I know it doesn't go into too much detail, but I hope that I have provided you enough information to something that's not necessarily on their website is things like how loose these setups can be. Let me know if this video has been helpful. Like, subscribe, try to get to 500 subscriptions before the end of this year, which would be fantastic. Thanks guys, take it easy, and if it's easy, take it.